Hi friends, Mindy here. Today I am doing another collaboration with Jade from Etched by Faith. All month long, every Thursday we're going to be doing a challenge together. This is called the What You Make challenge, and the word that we chose, or I chose for this week, is window. So what I'm going to be doing is creating a tag here to include in one of the devotional kits that I'm working through. And so I've taken these two tags and I'm gonna use my circle punch here to create a window in this tag. It's about 2¼ inch, I think, this punch. And so I'm just kind of lining it up as best as I can. And then I'm gonna try to do the same thing. I want to cut out the same window in the second tag, and I'm going to end up making this a little pocket. So just kind of lining it up in the same place and hoping for the best, and fortunately it just ended up that they matched. So I also am going to take out one of the ephemera. This is from the devotional kit from By the Well for God from Handcrafted, and so it's got this sweet little dress form, and that's what I'm going to be using today to kind of stick in my little window here. And this will slide in and out of this pocket. So the first thing I need to do is laminate this dress form, and I'm using just some self-adhesive pouches. This is, if you don't have a laminator and you want to laminate small things, you can do this, and it's a really pretty sturdy laminate, so it's going to give me the stability that I need for this to be going in and out of this pocket. So the first thing that you do here is you open up the top sheet, the clear part, and then you put in whatever it is that you're laminating. So I'm going to put in my little dress form here, and I'm putting it kind of in the center because I want this to be centered in that little window, and I will trim it down to fit. So then you kind of flip it over, and I'm just centering this again, and then you pull up on the release paper, and as you're doing that, you're kind of pushing it down, kind of the way that you would like sticker paper, you know. And then one of the things that's suggested doing is using like a ruler to get out all of the air bubbles as you're going. So I'm just using the ruler to slide along there. Now obviously this has a little dimension to it, so I'm just going to go through with my finger and with my bone folder here and get as close to that actual die cut as I can, so that there's not any air bubbles. And you can see it's obviously bigger than my tags, which is fine. I did it in the center just to make sure I would have all the room that I would need. I'm just trying to get it kind of situated where I want, and then I'm going to just cut off the excess off of both sides and the little strip at the top. And then as I'm going through here, after I glue these two pieces together, I'll be able to kind of fine tune that a little bit. I'll have to trim it down some more, but you can kind of see this is how this will work. And so it will be this clear kind of acetate basically piece. And so now what I'm going to do is work on the actual tags themselves. And so what I have decided to do, I pulled out my craft sheet here because I am going to do some messy things, and it's just easier on this sheet. So I'm going to stick down this simplicity pattern here that was gifted to me from a sweet friend, and I'm going to put it on this tag. Now ordinarily when I'm collaging something, I use a liquid adhesive like matte gel medium or something like that, but because this tag is kind of thin, I just felt like if I added some liquid adhesive on there, it was really going to warp it pretty bad, and I really need it to be stable. Most of the time I don't mind if things get wrinkly or kind of curly or crinkled up, but for this particular thing I need it to have as much stability as I can get from it. So I went ahead and just used a glue stick, and it works well too. The one that I'm using is by Yoo-Hoo, and it's actually really great for collaging. If you're into like art journaling and that kind of stuff, it does work well. So what you see me here do is doing the back piece now. I did both tags, and then I'm just cutting around the outside and trimming it down with some scissors, just trimming up all of the edges, and then I'm going to cut out the windows here on both of the front and the back tag. And then I will also cut out the little hole because all of that got covered when I put down this tissue. I needed to find my smaller scissors so I could get in there in this hole and get that cut out of there. So now I have my front and my back piece, and they're going to look like this when they're put together. And I'm just kind of checking and making sure everything is lined up okay. And I need to make my pocket now, and I decided that I'm going to use, I was kind of debating which glue to use, but I went ahead and used this Barely Arts precision glue, and I'm being very careful to try to run this bead of glue very close to the edge, but also evenly, because when I slide in that clear piece, it will kind of butt up against that, and so if it's not a straight line, it will go crooked, and I'm really wanting to make sure that my little dress form stays centered in the window. So you can see here, I'm just going to test this, and obviously this is a little bit too big now that I've glued everything down. And so now I'm just going to go through and trim down this clear piece to be exactly the size that it needs to be, to make sure that that dress form is centered in my window. So I'm just sliding it in. You can see it doesn't slide all the way in there anymore. So I need to trim off this excess on the side that's going to go into where it's glued together, and that will make sure that when it slides in, it's going to be centered. Now my dress form isn't exactly centered within the plastic anymore, but will be centered in the window. It's not enough that when it's pulled out you don't notice that it's like off center, but it just is. And then I'm just trimming off the top ever so slightly, so that because I was kind of butting up against that circle, the hole at the top. So now I can just slide that in, just straightening up the edges here, and I'm just going to keep doing this until I get it exactly where I want it to go. And so now I can make sure that it will be centered in my little window the way that I want it, and I can move on to the next step. And what I had decided to do is I want to create a place where I can do some journaling. As I mentioned, I'm planning to use this tag in my devotional kit that I've made, and so I need some journaling spots. And so I'm taking one of these library cards. These are also from Bible for God, and I'm going to adhere this on the bottom half of this acetate, this clear piece, so that it's not visible through the window, but I will be able to write on it and pull it out, and it can have a prayer or some journaling or a scripture or whatever. So I'm trying to decide here how I want to glue this down, and I was thinking about a clear adhesive, and then I went ahead and decided I was going to use my glossy accents, and when I went to do it, it just kind of globbed out, so I'm just using my finger, and I'm just putting the adhesive just behind the dress form, and so you won't see it anywhere else. It's the only part of it that is adhered, but it's good enough adhesive that it's not lifting up or anything. So, and the next thing I decided to do here is to add something to the side, on this left side where I had glued it. Some of the edges were coming up and stuff, and so I thought I would just add some washi tape. So I have this measuring tape washi, so I'm just going to adhere this on this left side, and then I'm just kind of wrapping it around, and that's just going to keep that really secure. And then now I'm going to take some light modeling paste, and this is light and fluffy modeling paste, and my palette knife, and I'm going to just scoop some out and put it right here on my little craft mat. And then I'm going to color that with some Color Bloom from Prima. I mentioned this in another video where I used this product. You're actually, when you get these, they come, with just the powder, and you're supposed to add water, and they're supposed to be shimmery. And when you mix it with the modeling paste, it loses the shimmer. But I never added the water to it because it didn't have a fixative in it, and so I just didn't want to have to deal with all of that. So I just kind of left the powder, and then now I'm just using the powder to color this modeling paste. And because of the kind of pigments that are in it, you just have to make sure you mix it really well, because it's got lots of different colors of pigment, so you have to just keep mixing until you get the color that you want. And then I'm using a stencil here from Tim Holtz. This is a burlap. I just thought that would be appropriate for this tag, and I'm just kind of putting it in several places around my tag here in the front, and then I'll just put some up here in the corner, going right over the washi tape, just trying to tie all of that stuff together. And then I peeled it up and realized I wanted just a little bit more down here at the bottom, so I'm trying to find a place to set this. I just want it just a little bit more in that bottom right hand corner there. And then I'm gonna just scrape up all the excess with my palette knife here. And right here, I'm just going around and making sure that I didn't get any of this modeling paste, you know, in the opening. Otherwise, it will basically seal up my tag, which is what I don't want. I still want it to function as a little pocket. So I'm just scraping up all this excess here with my palette knife. And I decided at this point, I would go ahead and just add a little bit to the back, and I was just kind of impatient, so just very, very carefully, even though the front is still wet, I'm just going and adding the little bit that I had left over in a couple of different places here on the back. I don't plan on like fully decorating the back at this point, and so I'm just adding a little bit just for continuity's sake. And then I'm just gonna clean up all of this mess. It's important when you're using modeling paste that you either put it kind of in water to wash later, or you go and wash it right away. Otherwise it will mess up your stencil. So I just went ahead and cleaned that, and now everything is dry, and I had this one little section of the tissue that was pulling up, so I just glued that down with my Barely Arts glue. And you can see here my little tag, my little window piece goes inside my window there, and that's how it will look. And now I want to work on the front cover, and so I have this little doily in my stash, and it's kind of the same colors, and so I thought I would use it. I'm just gonna kind of mark out where I need to cut it. Every time I use a doily, I think of my friend Sonia. She's my happy space here on YouTube, and she uses a lot of doilies, and so every time I use one, it just makes me think of her. So anyway, I'm just gluing down part of the front here. I thought I was going to go ahead and trim this off, so I wanted to pull this down so that I wasn't covering all of the texture paste that I had put down, and you can kind of see the texture paste through the holes in the doily anyway. And it was right here. I was going to cut this off, and then right before I did, I decided I would just go ahead and see what it looked like if I wrapped it around, and I really liked how that looked. So then I just came back in with some more adhesive, and it does kind of cover up the texture paste in this section on the back side. You can see it through the holes, but for the most part it kind of covers it up, but that's okay. And then I'm just trimming off the bottom, and now I'm going to work on my little cluster out here on the bottom left. And I had these tags in mind to use, but I did not put my doily up far enough to be able to use the ones that I had intended. So I'm just gonna kind of refigure how I wanted to do this. So I have this black button, and I took some embroidery floss and just threaded it through there and tied a knot just in that same color as that doily. And then I'm just going to create a little cluster here with these tags. These are, I believe, Tim Holtz tags, and I wanted something over there on the left side, and I didn't really want to use that big tag just for a little piece. So I pulled out one of these other little tags from Tim Holtz. They're little tickets, and the color on the front is a red. There's like a red line around it, so I just flipped it over and I tore it basically in half, and I'm just going to use it because I just want a little tiny something kind of tucked behind there. So I'm kind of just fiddling with the placement of everything, and I decide that that's close to what I want, and so I'm going to start by adhering the little ticket to that green tag, and just using some of my liquid adhesive for this part. That way it gives me a little bit of time if I need to shift things around and move them. And then I'm going to use this long skinny tag, and I'm just tearing off what I don't need, because I can save that and use it as a layering piece in something else. So I try to save as much of those things as I can. And then I'm just coming in with some more liquid adhesive, and then, like I said, it gives me the time to kind of fiddle with this. So you can see I'm tucking it back a little bit more, kind of out of the way, and I decided that is going to work. But I need to glue down my button, and for this, because of the way that it's curved, I'm using some Helmar 450 quick dry adhesive. It's just a really, really strong adhesive, and so I just am putting it on the back there, and then I decided to put it off center, kind of overlapping some of the edges. It's just going to tie everything together better for that little cluster. So I'm it's a quick dry adhesive, but it's not instant. So I'm just going to let that sit just for a minute, and I'm going to work on creating a little pull tab for my little tag here. And I just had some ribbon that was left over from a different project, and so I'm just creating a little pull tab with that, and I'm just going to staple it. So you'll see the back side of the staple, but it just, to me, it just is one more little texture. And so I like that. So then when it slides in, that little pull tab is going to stick out. And then just to pull in a little bit more of this kind of peachy coral color, I'm just going to add some more of that embroidery floss, and I'm just wrapping it around this one little section on the front cover, and then I'm going to tie it in a knot. And just kind of adding just a little bit more color kind of up near the top. And then at this point I decided, well, I needed to glue this down because I messed it up a little bit. Pulled up some of that tissue, and then I'm going to slide this clear piece back into my little window there. And then I decided I wanted something else up at the top. I didn't really like how that little knot was looking, so I pulled out these little buttons that I got, and I'm just pulling out a little green one, and I'm going to thread those ends through this button, and then I'm just going to tie a knot in the top, and then I'm just going to leave those pieces kind of hanging. But I didn't tie the knot very well, so I'm just adding a little bit of that adhesive just to make sure that my button stays kind of where I want it to instead of flopping all around. I'm just going to hold that there just for a second so that it really adheres. And then because I'm using embroidery floss and it kind of, you know, pulls apart, what I did is I just put a little bit of that liquid adhesive on my finger, and I'm just kind of rubbing down the edges of it, and that will just keep it from fraying. So I need to glue down my cluster now, so I'm adding some of my ATG, but I'm also adding some liquid adhesive kind of in between because it's a really textured area, and so this having the combination will just really make sure that that sticks down well. So here is my finished tag. I have plenty of room for journaling and taking notes, and I can write there on the tag. I can write on the back side here, include some notes. I can even use a Sharpie and write on the back side of this dress form. And this is going to go in my devotional kit. So if you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, bye-bye.